Hey everyone. So if you're watching this, you may have seen that we've announced that we're getting a training facilities or headquarters. I think we're probably gonna call it the Endpoint HQ. Again, I'm filming this at the end of June, so I don't actually know when this video is gonna come out. We have to announce it first before I can show this. But yeah, we're getting an Endpoint headquarters. It's something we've been planning for a long time. We actually had a lease kind of like ready to sign just before COVID. For a place, and then COVID hit, and luckily we didn't sign it because yeah, it had been sat empty for probably a year and a bit, maybe 2 years. So we're very lucky we didn't sign that. So yeah, I want to show you the whole process really. So we wanted to announce the fact that we're having the headquarters before we've even got a place, because I wanted to show you guys the process of us looking around different areas, what our thought processes are, why we're having certain areas. You know, today we're going to go. I'm driving up. It's about 8:30 a.m. right now. It's quite early for me. I'm normally a little bit later. I was actually up about an hour ago, but I was playing around with this camera. This is one of the first vlogs, so I didn't quite figure it out. But I think I've got it now. I think it's okay. Anyway, so we're going up to Sheffield today. I've got a 3-hour drive, and we are going to look at a mixture of places from around, I think the smallest ones can be 3,000 to 3,500 square foot maybe, all the way up to 11,000 square foot, which is massive. Like we're looking at the differences between a normal, your standard office kind of lookout, which we can have boot camp rooms, we can have all sorts, and then we're also going to look at potentially warehouses, which could be kind of cool for your content creations. It could also has a lot of options if you go for a warehouse. Let's say we went for the 11,000 square foot warehouse, you know, we wouldn't necessarily use all the space straight away because it's a huge space, that is. But you could do LAN events, you know, IC, you could do just general, you could host events, you could do content in there. You had the whole kind of like area to just do whatever you wanted, you know. You put cars in there, for Christ's sakes. You do what you want, really. So we're going to go around looking at the positives and negatives of both. I'll hopefully be able to show you a few places, and you know, these might not be the places we go for. I think we're going to look at like 5 or 6 places today. I'm going up to meet Adam, my business partner, and also we've got Hugh and Frank, who are now on the board of Endpoint. So Hugh's one of the founders, and he's chairman of CEX or SEX, you know, they say it. And we've got Frank, who's the franchise director as well. So yeah, so off to Sheffield. Nice long drive. I've arrived in Sheffield. Yeah, 3-hour drive, not too bad. I'll be honest, every time I think about these long drives, I just it makes me think of Avek, our Quake player, who when he lost his passport to go to Italy from Poland, and he drove 16 hours straight, and I just don't know how he ever did it. Even like 3-hour drives seem a bit of a... They seem alright, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, Endpoint has always been about infrastructure really over the years. We've always had boot camp houses and stuff for our players to succeed, but we've found over the years that, you know, boot camp houses get a bit studenty, and we like to try and separate your work-life balance. Sorry, that's bus. We want to try and separate your work-life balance, and that's why we want to get a headquarters, kind of like training facilities, and yeah, Sheffield's a lot cheaper than London, let's put it that way. So for me as well, that means like a relocate from London to Sheffield, which is not going to be a quick process, I'll be honest, but I'm excited about it at the same time. I don't have to live in a flat, I could live in a house, you know. There's some benefits that come with that. There he is. Say hello to the camera, Adam.
Hey, how you doing?
What's the schedule today, Adam?
So first we're seeing a big kind of like converted warehouse. They've already got all the electrics in, they've already got the like stud ceiling in and everything with all the cable ones. It's super cheap, which is good, but we'll need to kind of divvy it up and freshen it up. Put our own stamp on it, carpets down and everything like that. But the price is good and the space is big, so it kind of will need a bit of... We'll need to figure out what we're going to do with it, really.
What's the variety of square foot we're looking at today?
So it's basically split into 2 different halves. So
Because it's like office and warehouse,
Yeah,
two
yeah.
different
So
things.
there's a space that's roughly about 4,000. Let me think. Yeah, so there's a space that's roughly about 4,000 square foot, and then another bigger space which is 6,000 square feet, or we can combine the two basically, and it works out pretty good. Parking available. It's kind of just outside the city centre, so it could be a good option for us.
That's more office space or that's warehouse space. So
Well, both, because we
Yeah.
could effectively. I think the plan is, if we were to take both, would be to take out the stud ceiling, open
Yeah.
it up, and then we can have the studio on one side. Because the smallest, I mean, it's all warehouse. They've just got a ceiling, obviously.
that's the first place we're looking at then.
Yeah, yeah.
And then what are we looking at after that?
After that, we're looking at a couple of warehouses.
Yeah.
So we've got one in Kellam Island area. I mean, it's a shell. Like, we'd go in there and do our own thing and see how we do that. And then the other two are more towards the train station in Sheffield, quite central, good locations, but need some TLC for sure. So could be options. And then after that, we have got a office. So, after that, it's all offices. So we've got a glass fronted kind of office on one of the main ring roads around Sheffield. And then we've got two fairly central offices. One is a converted church, which is a bit quirky. It could be quite interesting. And then the other one is literally like, you will be on the 4th to 6th floor of a shared office space.
Yeah, so the problem with you'll see some of them are shells and some of them are already fitted out. Obviously, if it's a shell, it basically means there's nothing in it, and you need all the electrics. You need maybe the electrics, but generally, paint work, everything done, which can cost 100, 200 grand easily. You start racking up costs a lot. So for an organisation for our size, you don't necessarily want that upfront cost, but at the same time, if you have that upfront cost, the pound per square foot is going to be a lot lower than if the place is already done up nicely. So it's kind of a bit of a trade-off, and you just have to figure it all out, and the maths of it all, and what's worth it. First place we're looking at, so you can actually imagine you could have like Endpoint graffitied on the wall outside here, which is kind of cool. Hello. I figured the best way to probably do this is just talk over it. Some of the audio was a bit dodgy, and I think the best way is I can just talk over it and afterthoughts of it all. We're actually 4 months down the line now. I did say at the start of the video I wasn't really sure when this video was going to come out, and the main reasons for that was we were waiting to try and get the socios deal completed, which you've all now hopefully seen. We're offering a fan token, and we're going to get our own headquarters, which is amazing. Anyway, let's move on. So this is our first place that we went to go see. This one is actually super cool, I think. As you saw at the front, you could do a whole graffiti of the whole thing. Could you even imagine some fan polls of like, should we do this? This should be our like headquarter kind of like graffiti, or should this one be this or this one be? This place is split into two. I do want to make people aware, like, you might look at this and go, this looks shit. It doesn't. I mean, it does look like it needs a big rejob, and a lot of these places you'll see today will look terrible from the get go. You've got to imagine that we're going to be like, for something a place like this one, you'd strip out all the carpets, you'd strip out all the top bits, you'd repaint the whole thing. The furniture that's in there wouldn't be in there anymore, and you'd make it into rooms. I think the main point is figuring out today the space, how it works, and also the cost of that. So the strip out cost, is it, some places are new, pretty much ready to go, and some places need a hell of a lot of work done to them. But then also you have the rents that are different, and the business rates, and the lease lengths. There's a lot to think about, and obviously the size of the places as well is a huge thing to think about as well. So this one to start with is split into two. You can take the whole thing if you want, which is massive. We're talking about 11,000 square feet. Or you can split it into two, which we actually prefer. This place you're looking at right now is one open area. It was about, I think this was 5,000 or 6,000 square feet. And I mean, even, I know I'm saying everything in here is going to go, but you can imagine how big this place is with the amount of desks you have. We're looking at places like you'd have like 3 or 4 boot camp rooms. You'd have a media studio. You'd have some office, open staff area. We'd have the really fun areas where you have like the pool table, maybe table tennis table, chill out areas, demo review rooms, everything. And this place, you could do it all. is really great, and I do actually really love the fact of that opening part, where you can have that huge statement of a big wall of like a graffiti or something. Could be awesome. So moving on to second place. This is definitely a warehouse. This one hasn't really been converted into anything else either. It's an old car rental place. As you can see from the outside, there's plenty of space to park your cars, and you could even host some small events outside, which is kind of cool. But as you walk into it, I mean, that is actually a very large space. You could do a lot with this, but there's going to be a lot of money to fit this place out. We're talking 200,000-300,000 probably just to fit this place out, make it look really good. I was very much hoping that some free cars would come with the deal, but no, they don't. The deal is literally 65,000 a year, and they want to squash the whole place down in 2 years, and the lease would only be 2 years, 2 years long. So this is another warehouse. We're looking at a mixture of warehouses and office spaces. Kind of the warehouses are much cheaper, and you can actually do some really cool stuff with it, retro kind of, I don't know, whatever. But this place looks like it needs a lot of work. If you look from the outside, so this is the outside, which and the brickwork down there is quite special. The location's really good though, like really good apparently. But yeah, I think it's going to need a lot of work doing to it. We'll see. So third place, the same estate agent. I kind of feel like he was wasting our time a little bit, unfortunately. Look at this. This is a huge warehouse, which is great, and it was 45,000 a year rent, which is just crazy cheap. This is another one of the reasons why Sheffield over London, where you'd pay 200,000 a year for something like this, probably. But he's told us again, 2 years, and they want to just squash it. And I think the developers generally want to just put, a load of buildings in nicer high rises or whatever in there. But you're going to end up spending a fortune doing this place up to then just lose all that money in 2 years, similar to the second place that we showed you. So unfortunately, these last two places, as much as it's cool to get an idea of do we want warehouse versus pre-fit offices, currently we're very much going away from the warehouse idea because, yeah, this is not ideal to say the least. So how big is this one? Bigger. Okay.
I think it's 11.
11,000 square foot. Okay, Jesus.
10 or 11, but it's very almost split up.
Split up, yeah, okay.
Previous tenant left in March. I think they did some electronic components or something.
Yeah.
So they had office space, storage.
Holy moly! I mean, this place was ridiculous. I think that. Yeah, I mean, it was so big. It goes on forever and ever. You'll see as we're walking around. It's interesting. I think that the cost to fit this one out is going to be very, very large. I mean, it actually seems like a perfect venue for something like Epic Land to just rent out, or iSeries, or some land in the UK to rent out, and you could do awesome things with it. I think this one is better at least than the last two. It's 11,000 square foot. It's owned by the Duke of Norfolk, who owns basically the whole street.
A great indoor activity space.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks a bit like racket tennis ball as well. You hit against the. Yeah.
Squash court.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Sheffield Central Park. You have a Central Parks near here?
Yeah. London.
Okay.
Oh, it just keeps going, does it? Yeah.
Keeps going, yeah.
It's kind of a hot space, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's weird that you got a step in the middle as well.
Yeah. I work with staging.
So? Yeah, stage. Yeah.
You can have it almost like a cinema room kind of.
Yeah, cinema room could be kind of cool actually.
Yeah.
What is this? Is this just a structural?
Some sort of not close to those there. There used to be an electrical substation in the back, but
Maybe it's the whole heavy machinery, no?
seems, yeah. Say that, doesn't it?
We've got a nice little river by the side as well. We were having a little joke that we could have a canal service that brings the players from the station all the way back to our offices and back. It'd be quite fun. I'm not sure you'd be allowed to do that, but it would be great. If you're wondering who's walking around with us, we've got Hugh in front of us here, who's the chairman at Sex, and he's also on our board. And you also have Frank, who's the franchise director at Sex, and is on our board as well. Their knowledge is so helpful in these situations. You know, they have 600 stores worldwide, and they do this kind of stuff all the time. So. Cool. Yeah, it's massive, isn't it? As Adam's just said, I literally couldn't get my head around this one either. The place is split up into kind of two different offices, but they're linked, or they used to be linked. I think you can bash through a wall, and as he's showing there, you can bash through and get to the other place as well. It's just ridiculous. You kind of have the offices on one side and the warehouse on the other, but still kind of fun at the same time. So yeah, I quite enjoyed this place. So we're going to try and sneak our way into the next place. We can't get a viewing today, but Adam's seen it before. What was this place, Adam?
Sorry?
What was this place?
Well, we're basically right on the ring road of Sheffield. It's about 3,500 square feet, but it's already fully functioning as a fitted-out office. It's kind of glass fronted. It's got a cool mezzanine level. Yeah, it seems alright. So, unfortunately, it's surrounded by...
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, right.
It's this place.
So, unfortunately, it's this place, surrounded by scaffolding at the moment. So, they're in the middle of doing all the cladding.
This is some tiny space.
Yes.
Yeah, and upstairs as well. This place is actually really interesting. We quite liked it. The outside looks terrible because of the scaffoldings there, and actually at first puts you off quite a bit. We've actually discussed it since we recorded here, and apparently the scaffolding's going end of Q1, which actually works quite well for us. We wouldn't necessarily want to open with all the scaffolding there, and even for us that seems to put us off a little bit. But this place is really cheap, £9 a square foot compared to the one next door, which is like £18 a square foot. I don't really know how that works, but we're just showing up at the roof there. Bit of a water feature inside, but they'll get that fixed, of course. But yeah, this place, generally the fit out will be very minimal cost. As you can tell, it looks pretty good condition already. It's already used for an office, and I think actually would save us quite a bit of money in that sense. It is the smallest place we've seen though. This is about 3,800 square foot, which is still not a bad size, and I quite like this mezzanine level as well, which is pretty cool. Yes, we've looked at how many places now? 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5?
Yeah, 5.
One with one guy through another, and then one by ourselves, pretty much. Yeah. Very different. Yeah, so we've got a mixture of kind of warehouse and office space. I think the warehouses are the first 2 warehouses were a definite no for me.
Yeah.
The issue with them is they're basically like short-term leases, so you're talking 2-3 years. Nice.
Hello.
Talking 2-3 years with the potential of having to probably put maybe 200 grand into the place to actually do it up properly. And then after those 2 years, you could basically this is like a loss of 200 grand essentially straight for that. Third warehouse kind of area, it was more of it was kind of a mixture of warehouse and an office, wasn't it?
Very strange layout area. A lot of space, but just in a weird configuration.
11,000 square feet. It was massive. Not that expensive as well. I think it's 55,000 a year. Would need a lot of work doing to it though as well.
Yeah.
And then I actually really like that last office space we looked at, which was the unfortunately it's got scaffolding outside, so even if we could launch our new headquarters and there'll be scaffolding outside of it, which looked kind of shit. But
this one
Yeah, left it. But it's quite cool with the two. I like the two floors. You can separate. You can separate your open office space with your gaming, like boot camp, your professional rooms for your teams, and potentially your media studio could be in a different place as well, where for sound issues and all this. And it was also pretty much fit out already. So like the costs for fitting out would be nothing, or very minimal, which is pretty beneficial. 5-year lease, 2.5-year break clause potentially. Also the option to buy the place, which could be kind of interesting for future. You never know what's going to happen with the amount of money you get in a business. Like it's kind of all of a sudden you could end up getting a bunch of money. You never know. Like so that's also pretty interesting prospects. What do you think? What's your favourites?
Yeah, I agree. I think for me it's between the first one and the last one at the moment.
Both the office spaces, yeah.
Yeah. So the warehouse places would be cool, and I think it'd be great to have that kind of aspect to it where we could, do a range of content and a range of media or whatever. But how often are you going to use that space? Is it worth paying through the nose for? It's a difficult one.
Yeah, I actually really like the first place as well, and I can imagine us having a graffiti, like just all Endpoint stuff outside on that wall, which would be really cool, really, like awesome. So we're seeing 2 more places after this. We're gonna go grab a drink probably, and
get in this lane.
Yeah, we're gonna go grab a drink because we've got like an extra, we've got like 50 minutes. Got like an old church here now. Yeah, this place had a lot of character, and I think Hugh and Frank actually liked it quite a lot because of the character. Could have the Cathedral of Endpoint, like maybe have a different name to it. But yeah, no, it's a bit smaller, this place. I think it was around 2,700 square foot, or maybe 3.5. Not sure. It might be actually 3,500. Not sure. And the problem with this one was it seemed to be a bit detached from each other. I mean, you got this space here, which is not a bad space. You have the upstairs, which you'll see us going up in a sec. I thought, you could have a pool table up here or something. But maybe good luck getting the pool table up there. I think it's also a grade 2 listed building, as most churches are, which could have its issues in terms of, we wouldn't necessarily want to knock down walls, but in terms of changing stuff, you can't really touch those. But yeah, it was kind of fun. I just think it was too small for plans that we might have in the future, for example. Doesn't really give you much room to grow, because if we're going to lease a place for the next 5 or 10 years, even if that's the point about getting somewhere a bit bigger, because we might it might be right for us now. Like this space for us right now would probably be correct in some ways, but if you're thinking the next 2, 3, 4 years, you don't want to keep moving, and you want a place to grow into, and if it doesn't cost you that much more, it can just be better to go for the bigger place straight away. But this place, even though it did seem quite small at first, did keep growing and keep adding extra rooms at the back. A bit disjointed. So technically, it's not like an open space that you can do whatever you want with it. It did feel a bit restricted in some ways in that sense. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, it was nice, and it had a good character, and it was, again, already kind of fit out, so you wouldn't have to do much to it in terms of costs, which is also a big benefit. And we're on to the last viewing of the day. It's been quite a long day. Saw 7 places. This one is more of an office block, I guess. So you could have Endpoint written right there, which could be kind of cool. But this is, a serviced office block, which is different to the other ones. Again, this is me and Adam also getting a feel of what kind of place we want to rent and what works and whatnot. This one is actually, fit out perfectly. As in, this is all nice. Carpet's good. All the, electronics, gas, everything's nice. That's just like an example room you could have there. All the roof tiling, all the roof kind of things are in, which means you can just put out whatever glass or walls you want to put into it. The place is about 3.8k square foot, and yeah, I mean, you kind of see what you get here. It's actually nice. Downside of it is it's bloody expensive, and you find that quite a lot with these high rises or these kind of these office service blocks. They try and get too much rent, I think. They have like 24/7 concierges downstairs, which is kind of good, but this is £15 a square foot, which is double a lot of the places we're seeing, which doesn't sound expensive if you're used to London prices, or London prices are probably 3 or 4 times that still. But then on top of that, they also have a £4 a square foot service charge for off the lift and for the concierge downstairs. So that can get a little bit annoying. The view was like fantastic though. I mean, look at the view in a second. I think it's coming up here. Would be pretty nice. The location was great. Close to the station. Obviously, location's not something I've talked about, but it's something which we're obviously keen for as well, because you got your pros and streamers and staff coming in often. You wouldn't want them to have to go too far. Nice little pint at the end of the day there. And we've met up with Mighty Max and Surreal, who are living in Sheffield right now, for a nice meal at the end of the day. Hey everyone, long day, back in the hotel. Just a nice, pretty simple room, Premier Inn. Why not? Yeah, so we saw 7 places today. It was pretty good. Hopefully you guys, I don't know how I'll edit this or whatever, but hopefully you guys can see them as well. After we went around looking at the places, we kind of sat down together at the pub, and we basically wrote a list of kind of like essential things we need in a place, and we kind of like wrote a list of like dreams of what would be great and what could be cool for the future. Because we got a future plan at the same time. Some of the places are way too big in some ways, but if you think about 3, 4, 5 years down the line, could they be what you need then? It's kind of hard to predict. It always is in esports. It's kind of hard to predict where you're going to be and what you need. So yeah, we did that. From the places we saw today, there are a few favourites, of course. I think the warehouses ones are going to be like way out of place in some ways. The costs to redo them are just going to be crazy. Like 2 or 3 of the ones we saw, the estate agents basically said, like after 2-3 years they just want to squash the place and they're going to redevelop the whole thing. So you could put 200-300 grand or something into redeveloping the whole thing to look brilliant, and your headquarters, and then a year or 2 later you just kind of like see it's gone, and that's just a big waste of money. So we need to find a place which is going to potentially cost a lot of money to redo. It could do, but it could last us 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, and that could be our headquarters going forwards. That being said, there were some places we saw today as well which are fully kitted out already. They cost more in terms of rent generally for like square foot. So a couple of beers, hiccupy. They cost more generally for like a square foot, but you'll find that you won't have to pay that 100 grand up front. So it's kind of like do you want to keep that money up front, or do you want to spend it now to save later kind of thing? And it's just to and froing, weighing it all up. One of our favourite places for now was actually the first one we saw today, the Arley Street one. That's really cool. You got like the whole white thing, the whole white kind of like bit outside. You could kind of like graffiti the whole thing, and then it's like taking half of that area. It could be 5,500 to 6,000 square foot, which is huge. It's bigger than we necessarily need, but some of the stuff you could do with it is awesome. But it does need some work doing to it for sure. So we'll weigh up a few places. We may end up having to go look at some more places. We won't necessarily pick one of the ones we went to today, but anyway, I'm just back in the hotel. I'm driving back in the morning, and I've got a bunch of meetings tomorrow from 2 and 3 p.m. So I just need to get back. I need to leave at like 9 a.m. tomorrow, get back for midday, and kind of and get back to work. It's been nice to actually have a day out, and from COVID for the last year and a half, haven't been many days out, so it's been nice to have a day out exploring, meet up with Adam again obviously, and Hugh and Frank. So it's been pretty cool. If you like this, feel free to subscribe. I don't know how often videos will be. I'm going to try and keep them pretty interesting stuff, like boot camps or days out. There might be a few here and there, which is just kind of like obviously just me in my office, day to day stuff that I'm doing and getting on with, and I want to kind of be pretty open with Endpoint and what's going on. But let me know in the comments as well if there's anything you want actually to see, and and might spark some ideas, might spark me to actually do it if you guys like the video or whatever. It's more likely to make me do more and more of these. The recording is the easy part. It's the editing, which I know I could never be bothered with sometimes, but I'll try and keep it up, and we'll see. I don't know. This is, as I said, end of June. I don't know when this will come out because we've got to arrange the whole announcing of it. And there's a few things in the background which I can't discuss, which are kind of tied to this as well, which needs to be signed off first. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys later. See you, bye.